Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So, looking at the chase marks for horses, the first one I want to talk about, as you can see there, is Kitty's Light. Not enough. Not enough. Went up £6 for that. Will win again as soon as he gets another marathon trip. Um, I thought he won it really cosily, the Scottish National. Looking forward to seeing where he goes next. What could they do with him next season? Moving on to Captain Orr, dropped £1 to 131 and doesn't stay the 4 mile trip, doesn't stay 3.5 mile or the 3 mile 5 Bet365 Gold Cup trip, definitely doesn't stay that Scottish National trip. Actually travelled into it okay, started to make ground along with Kitty's Light in the Scottish National, but didn't pick up and didn't stay. I think next season, I think they might do it slightly differently. I think they will run in the Sky Bet Handicap Chase again, which they finished second in this year. Cooper's Cross was actually won the race, and he went on to finish second in the Scottish National. I think they'll go for that Sky Bet Chase, but I think they'll be aiming for that race again, the Coral Trophy at Kempton. They ran in it this year a week after he'd won at Ascot. I think they were worried they weren't going to get in, and they got in off a penalty, but just a week later. I think they'll make sure that they're in this year or next year, February next year, and that'll be the main target. Probably, maybe even don't want to start back in Captain Orr until February, March next season. Next horse I want to talk about is going to be, for me, the biggest improver and the horse that Dan Skelton lays out for a race. I think he'll be the biggest improver because I think he'll end up rated around 150. So he dropped £1 to 135. I think he'll be over the 150 at the end of next season. And I could actually see Dan Skelton doing a long-term plan, having 2 runs. The 2 runs, you go to, let me just find those races, I've got them here somewhere. You go to this one, the 2 mile handicap at Ascot, 65 grand. He obviously ran really well on his return recently at Ascot when beaten by Black Jerry, who went on to win the Scottish Champion Chase. He wasn't fit that day and yet ran a really good race for second. After winning that, you'll be rated, say, I don't know, 142, but you've already won 65 grand in prize money. You'll be rated 140, 142, and then you go for the Grand Annual for another 70 grand. You make sure that you don't end up doing a third time lucky and winning at Sandown, winning a nothing race at Sandown, but you do run in this race, which he ran in, like third time lucky, but you win it. You win the 65 grand here, you then win the 70 grand for the Grand Annual, and then that's it for the season. And then you could even look at the grade ones. You could possibly look at the Red Rum, but I think he'll be too high in the handicap for that. But I could genuinely see Dan Skelton going, we're going to gear it all around 2 runs, and those being the 2 runs, Ascot and then to Cheltenham. I think he's that well handicapped off 135. Why do I think he's that well handicapped? Well, let's have a look at some of his form. He won a handicap here, a novice handicap chase, beating Oaken Risk, That's the Right Gino, Strawfan Jack, and Balco Coastal. So let's just load up a couple of those. Balco Coastal went to Cheltenham, disappointed at Cheltenham, but he'd previously finished second at Sandown and he'd won at Kempton. When he finished second at Sandown, he was beaten by Jerry Colombe, who's now second favourite, for the Gold Cup. Also in behind, you can see Balco Coastal come out and won this good handicap, beating Solo, who's come and won a graded race. Good form again. Strawfan Jack, where was he running? He's finished 4th at Cheltenham, 4th at Aintree in grade ones, I believe. Let's just have a quick check. I'm sure they were grade ones. 4th in the Arkle and 4th in the Mild May. Okay, he wasn't challenging the winners, but he was running in grade ones. Oaken Risk obviously finished second at Newbury, behind Frere Dam. Dropped to hurdles and won a Betfair hurdle, and has since finished third in a Sussex Champion hurdle. Oaken Risk also finished second in a grade 2 event, so that's good form. That's All Right Gino finished second in a 2.5 handicap behind Stage Star, who went on to win a Grade 1, and himself has come out and finished second in a Grade 2 behind Solo, and come out and won a Grade 2. Good form. Fred also beat Hadda Desobo. What did Hadda Desobo do? Since then, he's come out and won a handicap chase with That's Alright Gino back in 4th. And then came out and won the Edwards Courage Cup with Third Time Lucky back in 3rd. It's rock solid, super hot form. What's this race all about? This is where he's going to run, yeah. So I'd be very disappointed if Fred doesn't end up a much better horse next season. He'll win a couple of handicaps, and I think he'll win the Ascot, Jim Barry Wineshurst Handicap Chase, and the Johnny Henderson Grand Annual for Dan Skelton, who, I really, really like Fred. He's probably the two I like most in this video are Kitty's Light when he gets a marathon trip again, and Fred. Anyway, moving on to the next one. Pay the Piper dropped £1 to 141. Interestingly, his former heir is now 8th out of 8 and 8th out of 9. So he doesn't like air. Where do they go with him? I think they might aim to return to the Scottish Champion Handicap Chase. It's not the greatest prize money, but I think they could win that. They'll need to drop £1 more to get into that, so they might run somewhere that he disappoints a bit. But I wonder whether they might save him and try and plot a route to this Red Rum Handicap where he finished 5th and never near a 5th, but things didn't quite go right that day, and I think he's better than that. So I do think he's interesting. He might need to drop £1 more, and then I'll be really interested in him as soon as he can get into 0 to 140s. I think he's better than that. The final horse in the chases is Thunder Rock. Now, this is one that caught me by surprise. He dropped £1 to 146 after being beaten by That's Alright Gino in a Grade 2 at Ayr. Now, I think That's Alright Gino was well handicapped. So although he's well handicapped, what I was therefore saying is I believe that That's Alright Gino is about a 150 horse. So he's finished narrowly beaten by a 150 horse. So why is one Thunder Rock dropping £1 to 146? I think that's lenient. Where do I think they go? Well, I really hope they're going to win this Wincanton race. It's a 3 mile 2. I think he wants to step up and trip. That's the thing I really like about Thunder Rock. I'm sure he wants a 3 mile trip, but he wants a handicap, not graded company. He wants a handicap. And this race, good prize money, the beginning of next season, is where I hope to see Thunder Rock. I've then suggested he might end up in something like the Coral Trophy if they don't believe he stays 3 mile because they keep running him over 2.5. This 3 mile at Kempton is obviously an easier 3 mile. But I think they should start him or aim to start him towards with the early season plan being this Badger B or Badger Ales handicap chase at Wincanton. So there's my horses for chases. Again, most of these are next season. Kitty's Light wherever he goes in a marathon trip. Captain Orr with the aim being those January-February races, Skybet Handicap Chase and the Coral Trophy. Freya Darm, Grand Annual, but if they can pick up that Ascot race en route, I think that would be very, very good. I think he's really well handicapped, I really do. Pay the Piper, as soon as he drops another £1, it'd be interesting, but I think he could win off this 141 mark, particularly in races where the Paul Nicholls and Nicky Hendersons and that don't run them. You know, Ayr and Aintree, he was in against both of those. Doncaster, even then he had the Dan Skelton Calico, who I think is well handicapped. But other than that, I think he can win a couple of handicaps next year, or target him all about that return to Aintree. And the final one, Thunder Rock, as soon as he goes over 3 mile and as soon as he goes into a handicap, I think it'll be very, very interesting. He could be a potential Scottish national horse for next season, similar to 3 Under Through 5, who ran a good race this year. So there's my thoughts for the chases. Hopefully there's a few future winners there.